Okay, there are so many versions of the 1450 P51D Mustang by FMS out there. I just wanted to put one out here that's a little different. I'm not doing the full build of the machine. Obviously, there's so many out there, people are building it, which I will warn you, there's some people who build this machine who don't build it per the instructions, but I would recommend building it per the instructions because otherwise you're going to end up with screws in the wrong spot and different things like that. Just a real quick little thing. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It wasn't hard at all to get these control arms installed. It was really easy in my opinion. That took me less than, I'd say, 25 minutes total to put all of the control arms on, get those set up. So that's not a big deal. I know some people whine about that, but that wasn't a big deal at all. My only pet peeve was the wing did not, some of the screws to hold the actual wing on the wing joiner underneath. There was one screw that was just not wanting to bite into the actual screw hole there. So it was kind of an adjustment to get that one screw lined up. But other than that, that was pretty much it. I know there's also questions. People are like, oh, we will, because the manual doesn't say what size the type of motor or the battery you're supposed to use. We're just going to guess. So I will say there's an easy way to find that out. So this particular version is I would say they say it's the version 8 because it says V8. That's obviously not the size of the motor that I ordered or that I got, but it was actually, I would say, the version 9 because it comes with, if you notice here, it comes with the 80 amp ESC with 5 amp SBEC on there for your battery eliminator circuit. And so the thing is, when you order this, I got mine off of Amazon, but when I ordered it, obviously this is what it shows up as. If you read that, it says 1400mm P51D Redtail V8 plug and play. So that's what they still scan it as, and what they sell it as is on Amazon, but it comes up as the actual machine's a 1450. So it was kind of confusing. I had my fingers crossed the whole time that I was getting the 1450, not a 1400 old version of this, but it did come with the updated ESC and everything. So with regard to the size of battery, I mean, I've seen people whining about how it doesn't tell you because the manual's old. Yes, the manual is old. They did not update the manual. But an easy thing to note with this, if you go in here into the actual unit, which by the way, I did put a Reflex into this. I bought that separately, added that. And it is kind of hard to get it positioned. If you notice the position I have it here, these plugs actually bite right into the bottom of this there. I kind of had to put a dent in there. I'm actually going to melt that a little bit up higher so that it'll close better. But that's about the only position. I tried mounting it here, but the problem is it's not, you can't get the cords to reach in that slot. But that's where I originally had it mounted, was in that slot there, but the only way it would fit was in reverse. So yeah, this is where I ended up putting it. Then with regard to the ESC, if you look, I'm going to zoom in here very tight, and hopefully you can see this. But if you look, well, there's not, I'm trying to get the light to adjust there. Okay, it probably looks a lot better now that I've got some light shining back in there. But if you see what it says brushless controller, 9 to 18S for nickel metal hydride, or 3 to 6S LiPo. It's the 7 amp 5 BEC, and this is the ESC 80 amp by Predator that's mounted in here. So keep that in mind. There is the throttle reverse that's added on here. I know that's a question with some of them, but this does have the throttle reverse. I didn't set that up. I may set it up at a later date, but it does have the circuit for that. I went ahead and got the 10, the Flysky with the 10 AB for the FS-i6X radio. so that's what I used for this. I'll go grab that and show you what I got set up for that. So this is the radio I got for this, the FS-i6X, which I think is a great radio for this. What I did was I took the three step switch off of that particular radio that came with that plug and fly, ready to fly plane radio, and I mounted it right here, and then just soldered the connector from it that would fit into the circuit board on the back of this, in the same circuit board switch as this one. It was very simple, 4 screws to pull off of here, and then just cut the wires about midway, soldered the wires together, put heat shrink tubing on there, and used the connector from the other switch, and it works great. So anyway, with regard to the radio though, I mean, I basically just labeled these with I got my own label maker, so I set this up for throttle cut, set this up for my reflex, my 3 points on my reflex, set this up for my flaps. It's also 3 points. That's the one that comes with it. And then I've got this for my gear. And then it was very easy to program. I like how you can set up more than one model on this. I got this set up as model 2, as you can see, for P51. I'm not going to get into all the varyings on that. If you'd like me to, I can show you some of the stuff on how to program that. One of the things it does show you is it does show you the battery voltage of your receiver battery when it's turned on, and I can show you that. But it doesn't give you the battery voltage of obviously the battery level. But it does use telemetry to send that through the iBus on this if you have the battery level sensor, the telemetry sensor, which I did order, and I'm going to add that to this. So that way I can read or get a warning on the battery level for the actual plane while it's in flight. You can also set up a timer. There's multiple things you can do with this, but I was really happy with all the stuff I could get done. Anyway, so that being said, I can go ahead and power this up real quick here. Give me a second, I'll pause it. Okay, I just plugged her in. So let's go ahead and put the top back on it. And this stand, I was going to give you one of these Robart stands, and I'm like, you know what? I can make that at Home Depot with just some 1/2-inch tubing and some fittings. So I actually made that stand, and what's interesting about it is that stand is collapsible. It'll fold flat. The way I've got that designed, it'll actually scissors left to the one, either left or right, and it's collapsible, so it'll fold flat and lay flat in the bottom of my van, and then I can just travel with it if I need to. Or I can obviously have the plane sitting on it in the van, either way. But so here we go. And now I've got that plane on, you can see it's showing me the receiver battery level. If I pull that up, we're getting propeller right now because the throttle cut's not off. I'll give you a little bit of propeller action there. We'll turn the throttle cut on. And now you can see we're getting no throttle with the throttle cut. So let's give us our rudder there. Going left, right. Then we can go with our, zoom out here a little bit. Sorry to be so movie with this. We can go with our flaps. That's full flaps. Try this again. Full flaps. 50%. Full. So yeah, 3 different positions. I was also thinking about setting that up on the variable as well, so I could, if I wanted to just roll them down at whatever level I wanted, I could do that, because you can just set that up. We have 2 variable switches on here, so you could actually have it sitting, you could have it running on the variable as well, so you could either adjust them variably, or you could run them on the flap switch. So, I mean, whichever way you prefer, you could do that. I've got my gear switch here. We'll flip that and see the gear come down. I'm sure you've seen this on multiple people's stuff, but you know, we'll go ahead and do that. Here comes the gear. Nice, smooth. Now I will say the gear doors did not sit flat originally. on this, but again, I think it was on Brian Phillips, showed a little trick on there on one of his videos about basically all that is to fix that is you just rotate that that little gear door in there. There's your servo extension arm. You'll basically just rotate that like one turn or a half a turn, sometimes depends. This little thing, it'll be just like this. You'll just take that, while that's open, you'll unplug your battery so it keeps that door open and you have room to work, and you'll unsnap that off of the connector in there, rotate it to either, if you need it tighter, you'll want to pull this in tighter on that clasp by one turn or a half a turn. Do it a half a turn at a time, however much it is, and then watch them fold in and make sure they're tight so that they're not going to be loose or hanging down on there. And eventually you'll get a nice snug fit. You don't want them to be over tight, but you want them to be nice and flat when they're up. And you definitely don't want them, for instance, when they come down, you want them to be able to miss the doors. You don't want them to hit the doors. So if you notice, you obviously want the doors to not get hit by the end of the wheels when they fold in there, because if you tighten them too tight, the doors aren't going to fold down. So you'll want to remember that too. So one other thing is obviously there's the landing lights that are on the ends of the wing. Those are nice. I do think that's a cool added feature. I will say one feature I was looking into adding, but I did not do that on this particular plane. I may do it if I get another one of these. The only reason I didn't do it was because of I did not have a foam cutter, a good clean foam cutter. But an idea I have, which you can comment if you want, but is to take some LED lights, like a police light set. I have one of these and it's all whites that'll chase pattern. And basically cutting out, these have little spikes on the back of them to fit into the wing, but I was basically going to hollow these out, drill these out, put an LED in each one of these on each side, run the wires in and put one of those police chase lights in there where all these are chasing in a chase pattern to make them look like it's firing when it's flying at you, and have those on one of those spare channels. So I could then trigger on basically through one of these extra switches I would have. I could trigger on the guns to fire and it would look like the guns were firing, but it's only obviously lights switching on and off, not truly a gun firing. But I thought that would be an interesting effect. If FMS, if you're listening, I think that's something you could do even possibly as an added option that people...
Okay, so this is the section where it talks about in the manual about the battery and the charger required for the plug and play kit. However, this is the area where it's actually incorrect. And FMS, if you're listening, you might want to correct this section, obviously, is one of the things. There's several other areas where there's updates, but this is just one of them. It's calling out here, obviously, the 70 amp ESC, and the motor obviously is different also now. It's coming with that, so that's one of the things there. So I just wanted to point that out. But it calls out for a 14.8 volt 2600 25C battery at least. I know there's a lot of people who are, because they see this caution 5S 18.5 volt LiPo battery exceeds the maximum capacity of the ESC. Well, that's obviously a warning regarding the 70 amp ESC it's referring to here. So again, the one that I pointed out, the ESC says it's rated for up to 6S, so that should not be an issue. So, okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just show you something real quick on the front of the manual too. Is it says basically, see the visit, or please visit, both our Facebook fan page and our homepage for updated product information. So obviously they do have updated information there. And then I'm gonna zoom over. This will probably be the last thing you'll hear from me, but I'm just gonna zoom over to the and show you some information on the Predator speed controller that came with this. They do now have an updated version of that speed controller that's available, because that one was discontinued. When you go to their website and look it up, it was discontinued. So they even have a newer speed controller that's 80 amp. It's the same size, but it's just the newer version of it that's being included with these. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so in the back of the manual, you're going to see this page here, which shows spare parts list. And ironically, even though it calls out that there's a 70 amp ESC, it calls out the 80 amp one here in the back. Now, if you see the part number, it says PRESC for Predator Electronic Speed Control 036. Well, when you go online and you type in that number, this is the part that comes up, and it, of course, is discontinued. And the way you know that this is not the one that's installed right now, this is showing a 3-wire plug-in for the throttle control, but there is no throttle reverse on this particular ESC. So this is the one here that is for that. So when you go down, and you'll notice it says in the description that this has been discontinued, and it tells you this is the one that was replaced, that it was replaced with. So when you click on this one, it'll bring up this, and this, of course, as you can see, has the, if we'll go over here to the zoomed in version, you'll see the throttle reverse. The yellow line there is right underneath it in the zoomed in portion there. You'll see the regular throttle hookup and the throttle reverse, because this one that's inside this plane does have the throttle reverse. So this here is the correct speed controller. It is 80 amp, and when you go down here to the manual, so all this is just basically what I wanted everybody to see, is that you can find out if you need to do research on these. It's usually, you know, it's a little bit of research or digging, but you can find what you actually have in your aircraft and what is spec'd for it. But this is the user manual here. You can find that. It even says here that you can download an app and program this. But if you zoom in here on the 80 amp, well, it's kind of blurry, it looks like on my screen, but if you look, okay, hopefully this looks a little better here with a zoomed in version of the specs on that 80 amp. And you'll see here the one that's, there's one that's 60 amp / 80 amp, and then one that's 80 amp / 100 amp. That's the different burst levels on those. But that the 80 amp / 100 amp, that's the one that is just called out as an 80 amp on the type. And that is the one we're looking at here for the LiPo rating. And it says the number of cells for the LiPo cells is 2 to 6. And that's what I was just basically wanting everybody to realize, is there is a way to find all this information out if you just do a little bit of research. So that being said, that pretty much wraps everything up. So if you like what you saw here today, you know, I just like to say, you know, let me know if there's, you want me to have questions, or that you have questions about, you'd like me to talk about, just let me know. Thank you very much. See you next time.